Hello, my name is Barbara, and this activity is called Water, Water Everywhere. In this lesson, students watch a brief demonstration on the distribution of the world's water, and then calculate how much water they use on a daily basis, both directly and indirectly. There's a middle and high school version of this lesson, and it works well in environmental science, social studies, geography, and math classes. By the end of this lesson, students will be able to describe the locations of global water resources and their accessibility for human use, estimate their daily direct water use and compare that figure to actual use, identify and graph the amount of direct water used by the class on common human activities, and distinguish between direct and indirect uses of water. The main concept we want students to take away is, although water covers roughly 3/4 of the earth, only a small fraction is available for human consumption. And as population grows, water efficiency and conservation become more and more important. To set up part 1, you'll need the following materials: a 1,000 milliliter graduated cylinder. You're going to want to fill it with water and a couple of drops of blue food coloring. You may also want to measure out the 1,000 milliliters of water and pour it into a pitcher to start. 1 large clear container labeled as oceans. 4 smaller containers labeled frozen, deep groundwater, other, and accessible freshwater. Clear plastic cups work well for this. Place some sand or soil in the deep groundwater cup before you start the activity. You will also need to measure and set aside 35 grams of salt. And you may want some smaller graduated cylinders to help make the more precise measurements that will be needed. When starting the demonstration with students, remind them that the water in the pitcher represents all of Earth's water, and that we'll be dividing it into containers representing different areas so that they can see how Earth's water is distributed. In the middle level version of this lesson, we provide a printable 10 by 10 grid that students can color in as you do the demonstration to track the water distribution data for themselves. Now let me show you how it's done. You'll first pour 971 milliliters into the large oceans container, which represents the 97.1% of all the water on Earth that is held in our oceans. Since ocean water is 3.5% saline, we're going to add the 35 grams of salt to the oceans container to match the salinity of the water sample with the salinity of the oceans. Next, you'll pour 22 milliliters into the frozen container, since 2.2% of all water on Earth is frozen in glaciers and ice caps. You might want to measure this beforehand and stick it in the freezer to demonstrate to students that we cannot easily access this water since it's frozen. Then, you'll pour 3 milliliters into the deep groundwater container with the soil, since 0.3% of our water is deep within the surface of the Earth. After that, you will pour 1 milliliter into the other container, since 0.1% of water is found in clouds, saltwater lakes, and other places that can't be accessed. Finally, pour the remaining 3 milliliters into the accessible freshwater container. This 0.3% is freshwater that is easily accessed and not saline. After the demonstration, we offer some questions you can ask students. For example, which of the containers represents water that's readily available for humans to use? Only the container marked accessible freshwater represents a readily available and drinkable water supply. The deep groundwater is also freshwater, but it is not readily available. Then ask students to consider, how can we ensure that the supply of water will be sufficient to meet the needs of our growing population? This question will nicely lead you into part 2 of the activity, where students will conduct a water audit. In this part of the lesson, students will consider if they are typical water users by estimating how much water they use a day and reflecting on ways they might be wasting water. You'll want to display the domestic uses of water table provided in the lesson so students can calculate their estimated daily water use. You also can have students calculate the class average here to see how they compare to their classmates and even extrapolate to the approximate water use of their city or town. Additionally, students can reflect on ways they might be able to reduce the amount of water they're using. Then, ask students if they think this table represents all of the water they are using. You might need to remind them that there are many indirect ways they are consuming water, and display the table provided in the lesson. Have students consider how they might be able to cut back on their indirect uses of water, like eating less meat or buying less new clothing, some ways they may not have thought about before. Finally, as an extension activity, you can have students implement some of their ideas for reducing wastewater by conducting a quick study. They'll first read their water meters for a week for a baseline of their family's water usage. Then, they'll implement a water conservation plan for the next week and read the meter again to find out how much water they were able to save. And that's water, water everywhere. To dive deeper into some of the topics introduced in this lesson, check out our other lessons, Almighty Aquifers or Meat of the Matter. And for even more activities, visit our website, populationeducation.org. Thank you for watching, and we hope to see you soon.